No one ever expected Taya to forget her own mother, but when she stared at her that day, with empty eyes and no signs of recognition, the whole village knew something had gone terribly wrong. Tayo had traded something precious, something none of us understood. That's how it began. My name is Olarewaju, and I live in the same village as Tayo. We grew up together, shared stories under the moonlight, and ran through fields as children. But this story isn't about me. It's about Tayo and the night she made a choice that would change her forever. Tayo had always been special, not in the way some are born into wealth or status, but in a way that everyone in the village noticed. She had dreams, not the normal kind, the ones we all have after a long day of work. No, Tayo's dreams were different. They felt real, like they were alive. And the strangest part was that her dreams often came true. When she was a child, she dreamt about the village's river running dry. No one believed her at first, thinking it was just the imagination of a young girl. But 2 weeks later, the river dried up. It took months before the rain came back, and the river flowed again. After that, people paid attention to Tayo's dreams. As she grew older, the villagers sought her out for guidance. Mothers would come to her, asking if their sick children would recover. Traders would seek her advice before embarking on long journeys. The elders themselves would listen carefully to anything she dreamt. Tayo had become the village's oracle, whether she wanted to be or not. At first, it seemed like a gift. She was respected, loved, and people looked up to her. But as with most things, gifts often came with burdens. By the time Tayo turned 16, her dreams had changed. They were no longer simple events like a good harvest or a coming storm. Instead, they became darker, more confusing. She dreamt of things she couldn't explain, nightmares of people she didn't know, and events that seemed too far away to be true. At first, she tried to push the dreams away, telling herself they didn't mean anything. But the nightmares continued, night after night. They invaded her sleep, leaving her drained, scared and exhausted. I noticed it right away. Her once bright eyes seemed duller, her laughter quieter. She stopped coming to the village square to share stories with us, choosing instead to stay indoors, often refusing to talk about what she had seen in her sleep. One day, she came to me with a strange request. I was sitting by the river, as I often did after the day's work, when Tayo appeared, her face pale and her eyes distant. "Olarewaju," she said softly, sitting behind me. "I need your help." "Of course, Tayo. You know you can ask me anything." "I'm going to see the old woman in the hills tonight, the one they say can take away dreams." Her words sent a chill through me. Everyone in the village had heard of the old woman who lived beyond the hills, but no one ever went to see her. She was said to have powers, yes, but they were rumors, dark whispers about the things she demanded in return for her services. "Tayo, are you sure about this?" "What if it's dangerous?" I asked, my voice low. "I can't live like this anymore," she replied, her hands shaking. "The dreams, they are too much. I am scared of what I will see every time I close my eyes. I just want to be free from them." I couldn't blame her. The weight of her dreams had clearly taken its toll. But something about the idea of visiting that old woman didn't feel right. Still, I couldn't let her go alone. "I will come with you," I said, standing up. Tayo shook her head. "No, I need to do this on my own. Despite her protest, I followed her that night, keeping a distance so she wouldn't see me. We left the village just after the sunset, making our way through the familiar paths. But as we got closer to the hills, the path changed. The trees were thicker, the air heavier. I could hear the faint sound of drums, though I couldn't tell where they were coming from. After what felt like hours, Tayo reached a small hut at the base of the hills. It looked ancient. Its walls covered in vines, with smoke calling out from the chimney. I stayed hidden behind a tree as she knocked on the door. The door creaked open, and an old woman stepped out. Her hair was so white as snow, and her eyes were sharp, like they had seen too much. She looked at Tayo for a long moment before stepping aside to let her in. I waited, heart pounding, for what felt like eternity. The sky above had turned dark, the moon casting an airy glow over the hills. Then I heard it. Tayo screamed. It pierced through the night, and before I could stop myself, I ran to the hut, bursting through the door. Inside, Tayo was sitting on the floor, her hands trembling. The old woman stood over her, holding a wooden bowl filled with dark water. She looked up at me, unfazed by my sudden entrance. "Leave now, boy," the woman said calmly. "The trade is done." "What trade?" I demanded, rushing to Tayo's side. But Tayo didn't respond. She just stared ahead, her eyes vacant, her face expressionless. "She traded her dreams," the old woman said, her voice as cold as the wind outside. "She asked me to take them, and I did. But dreams are not easily taken. They are part of who we are. Without them, something must be lost in return." "What did she lose?" I asked, fear gripping my heart. The old lady smiled, a smile that sent shivers down my spine. "You will see soon enough." I pulled Tayo to her feet and led her out of the hut, my mind racing. What had the old woman done to her? What had Tayo lost? At first, it seemed like she was fine. She no longer had nightmares, no longer wake up screaming in the middle of the night. She even started coming back to the village square, talking and laughing with the others. But there was something wasn't right. Tayo, once so vibrant and full of life, seemed hollow. She didn't remember things the way she used to. One day, she forgot the name of her best friend. Another day, she couldn't remember where her home was. At first, the villagers brushed it off, thinking it was just exhaustion or stress. But as the days went on, her memory got worse. It wasn't long before she forgot who her mother was. That was the day everything changed. Tayo had been sitting outside her house, looking at the sky, when her mother, Abike, called her inside. Tayo looked at her confused. "Who are you?" she asked. Abike's face crumbled, tears streaming down her cheeks as she realized her daughter no longer recognized her. The villagers gathered, whispering amongst themselves. "This isn't our Tayo," they said. "Something is wrong." I knew what had happened. Tayo had traded her dreams, but in doing so, she has lost her memories, her sense of self. She was no longer the girl we had grown up with. She was a stranger in her own village. I went back to the old woman in the hills, demanding answers. "You never told her what the real price was," I shouted. The old woman looked at me with the same calm smile. "Dreams are not just visions, boy. They are a piece of who we are. When she asked me to take them away, I did. But without her dreams, she lost her memories. She lost her identity." I stared at her, horrified. "Isn't there any way to bring her back?" The woman shook her head. "What is done cannot be undone." She made her choice. I left the hut that night with a heavy heart. Tayo was still in the village, but she was no longer herself. The vibrant, lively girl we had all known was gone, replaced by a shell of her former self. The villagers stopped asking her about her dreams. Some stopped speaking to her altogether, while others looked at her with pity. And every night, as I watched her walk through the village, lost and alone, I thought about the whole thing the old woman said. Dreams are a part of who we are. Without them, we are not ourselves and we lose ourselves. Tayo had wanted to escape her nightmares, but in doing so, she had lost everything that made her who she was. The lesson to take out of this story is a warning for us all. In life, there are burdens we carry, things we wish to escape. But sometimes, those burdens, those struggles, are a part of what makes us who we are. We must be careful of the choices we make, especially when we are desperate. Not all pains is meant to be taken away, and some things are too precious to give up, even if they seem unbearable in the moment. This is the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story, please let me know what your thoughts are down in the comment section. And also please do not forget to like, subscribe, share, and turn on your post notification buttons so you always be notified every time we post a new video. This is how you can support us. It's entirely free of charge, of course. See you in the next story. Bye for now.